Please welcome to the stage Executive Vice President, Oracle, NetSuite Global Business Unit, Evan Goldberg.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to SuiteConnect. It's the conference within the conference. It's sort of a Russian doll of conferences. Thanks for coming to San Francisco. We're happy you made it. We've had a little bit of a runway problem. I don't know if you've heard about that. People have been stuck on the tarmac for a long time. We were thinking of moving this whole thing to the United Club, but it would have been a little tight. We're going to take SuiteConnect on the road next. We're going internationally to Mexico and Colombia. Next month we'll be in London, and then we'll Brexit out to Paris. But we're going to start right here at home, here in San Francisco, just down the road from our headquarters, and let's give it a go. First of all, I want to thank all of our sponsors. Dell Boomi, our diamond sponsor, Avalara, Brex, DSI, our platinum sponsors. You can visit them all back at the expo at the Marriott and check out, what they're doing to help make NetSuite even more powerful. So we're going to talk about growth today, and every organization wants growth. You want more revenue, more customers, ultimately to have more impact. And when we talk to our customers about growth, they talk about the challenges of achieving growth, maintaining growth. It can be overwhelming, unpredictable, chaotic. Some of you might play video games. More likely you have family members who play video games, and in a video game, you keep trying to score, you keep trying to grow that score, and eventually you get to level up. And that might unlock new weapons or new vehicles or new costumes. Well, today we want to talk about how to unlock growth. The journey of building a company sometimes does seem like a racing game. You're going towards a North Star, but you have limited time and resources, you have obstacles, you have competitors. So how in that challenging environment do you unlock growth towards your ultimate goal? Well, you face it with entrepreneurial spirit and grit. And that's when the magic happens. We're going to talk today to some people who've gone through that growth journey, who have that spirit. And we'll learn a little bit about how they got where they are and where they're going. And we're going to show a bit about how NetSuite can help on that growth journey. We ourselves have been on that growth journey. We've seen the obstacles over 20 years. It started with a 5-minute phone conversation between myself and Larry Ellison, where we had a sort of meeting of the minds about what fast-growing companies need. A suite delivered over the web, easy to use, where it ties everything together. That was sort of the first step on our 1,000-mile journey. We immediately ran into an interesting conundrum, which is that not all businesses are the same, shocker. And one of our first customers said, well, I want to track something different than what you track by default. And so that was the first custom field that they asked for. And we met that challenge by developing the Suite Cloud platform, which allows us and customers and partners to configure and customize NetSuite to particular company needs, a vertical need, a geographical need, etc. Next, as we grew, we ran into a lot of complexity, and so did our customers. Our customers were growing with us. And they were becoming more complex, we were becoming more complex, transacting all over the world. And so we invented NetSuite One World. That's our multi-subsidiary capabilities that allow a distributed multinational company to operate locally and globally in real time. Then we sort of went through a tunnel, which was the Oracle acquisition, and we emerged in a new landscape where we were a business unit of a larger company. And that led us to really double down on our mission of serving fast-growing mid-size companies. But it also allowed us to leverage the resources of Oracle. And so we expanded internationally at a blistering pace. We put a lot more money and resources into R&D. And we worked more closely with the technical team at Oracle. And over the past couple years, we've been reconceiving how we're going to deliver NetSuite to thousands and tens of thousands of companies all over the world. And the culmination of that work is that we're moving NetSuite to be delivered from OCI, or Oracle's cloud infrastructure. Now, this is a revolutionary new infrastructure for companies, but it really is the same promise to us that we've been giving to customers over the past 20 years. Don't worry about the plumbing and the wiring behind everything and plugging in servers. Just run your business. It's an elastic, automated infrastructure, and we can concentrate on being the best business app possible. I mean, in general, this will be transparent to companies, but it really will deliver great value. The heart of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure is the autonomous database. It's a game changer for customers that use it. I don't think people fully appreciate it. You can learn a lot about it here at Oracle Open World, but it's really database as a service. It's instead of maintaining software, you just ask it a question and you get an answer. It's self-tuning for performance. It's self-patching for reliability and security. And overall, the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure is elastic and scalable. So we're leveling up in our operations so you can level up in yours. And we'll scale NetSuite as you scale. There's a bunch of services that come along with OCI, AI and machine learning being one of them. We're going to use those services to improve NetSuite. We're using it in things like NetSuite's customer recommendations, and the powerful hardware and software that they have at OCI is going to make that run incredibly fast. We're also going to make things like AI and machine learning, Internet of Things, blockchain, these services from within OCI available on the Suite Cloud platform. So you and partners can take advantage of this to do great things with NetSuite for your use cases. So we're starting our OCI rollout in Europe. We're already live with live customers in London and Frankfurt. Over the coming years, we're going to move to 18 centers in the US, Europe, and Asia. As of next year, 100% of our new customers will be on OCI in Europe, and followed up soon with the US as we open up OCI data centers here in North America. And this is really just freeing time and resources for us to think about how we can unlock growth for you. So, why are we delivering the service? Why is any business doing what they're doing? Well, every journey has a destination. And for a business, that's the vision, their vision of how they want things to be, their true north. And our vision is to enable businesses to achieve their visions with one system in the cloud that ties everything together. That's our true north and what we always think about. And you can lose sight as you run your company of your true north, from distractions, advice that you're getting from all sides, adversity that might challenge your assumptions. That's when you need your North Star the most. It's the clarifying force. And we use this notion of one system to tie everything together as our clarifying force as we build new capabilities like the ones you're going to see today. So you started with your own true north. You might have invented something. You might be filling an untapped need, filling a hole in a market, a new service, a new business model. We'll hear from some businesses and organizations that have done that today. You had adversity, you had triumph, but you survived and you're here today. And you're still growing. And our job is to help deliver order out of the chaos so you can focus on that true north. We're continually amazed by the passion of our customers, and we want to give you some examples of the true north of some of our fantastic customers. I'm going to start with ZipRecruiter. You might have heard them right after my ad, and so they have a good marketing strategy. It's an online job board that allows employees to post jobs to hundreds of job boards, including ZipRecruiter, and it was named one of the most innovative companies of 2019 by Fast Company. And their vision is to actively connect employers and job seekers with the next great opportunity. SoFi is an online personal finance company. It does student loan refinancing, mortgages, and personal loans. And their vision is simple: networking experiences, not bank branches, something I think we can all appreciate. Thrive Market is an e-commerce membership-based market of natural and organic food at reduced costs. For every paid membership, they donate a membership to those in need. And Thrive's North Star is make healthy living easy and affordable for everyone. Headspace was originally an events company. Now they have guided meditations, articles, and videos accessible anytime, anywhere. And their vision is to improve the health and happiness of the world, which is great. I wish them so much luck in that. Then, in the business life, Smartsheet aligns people and technology so your business can move faster and achieve more. That's sort of their mission. And their vision is to empower everyone to improve how they work. CrowdStrike has been involved in investigations of very high-profile cyber attacks, including one in 2016 that I won't mention, but they have a very simple vision: protect customers from breaches. It does not get more direct than that. And finally, Creativity Explored provides people with developmental disabilities the opportunity to express themselves through the creation of art. And their vision is to celebrate the power of art to change lives. And you can learn more today about Creativity Explored. We have a special activation with them. It's a celebration of how art inspires, teaches, and heals, and how the creativity programs use art to change lives. So you can learn about the programs, meet the artists in person and some of their other artists' biographies. There's even a creation station where you can channel your inner artist and make personalized buttons that you can take home. So check them out at the Expo, Creativity Explored. Also at the Expo, we have a Build-a-thon for Good. NetSuite employees are being matched with nonprofits to face a NetSuite challenge that these organizations have. So including Creativity Explored as one of the organizations, Positive Coaching Alliance, and the California Association of Food Banks. That's at the Expo Hall from 11 to 4:30. So as you can see, the vision of enabling organizations to achieve their vision, it applies also to nonprofits and social enterprises. This has really been part of the DNA of NetSuite since early on, and it's a key part of the values for NetSuite and Oracle. And being involved in our social impact programs drives employees, gives them a sense of purpose, and we've worked hard to build up this program over many years. It has 3 key pillars. Last year we talked about the expansion of these pillars: Suite Donation, where we donate the service to charities and social enterprises; Suite Pro Bono, where employees volunteer their time to help to optimize the use of NetSuite within these organizations; and Suite Capacity, which is a library of tools that helps these organizations get more out of NetSuite long after they've been implemented. And this is having a major impact. We have 1,500 charities globally that have gotten NetSuite through Suite Donation. That represents $100 million of value. Last year, 847 employees did pro bono work, amounting to 6,000 hours on 218 projects. So we're really proud of Oracle NetSuite Social Impact. Beyond this, we're working with other companies. So we've joined something called Impact Cloud. It's a tech coalition to accelerate the impact of technology on nonprofits. We've invested, I should say, in an accelerator with the Full Circle Fund. And this organization, this partnership with these other tech companies, is really all about delivering resources and intellectual capital to maximize the impact of Bay Area nonprofits. As part of this, we've become a founding member of NetHope's Center for the Digital Nonprofit. It's a global consortium whose members deliver 60% of all international and non-governmental aid to the nonprofit sector. And so to talk about this, I'd like to introduce from NetHope the CEO, Lauren Woodman.
Hi, Evan.
Hi, Lauren. Well, first of all, we did a podcast together a little while ago, so find that search for Lauren Woodman and Evan Goldberg. That's how you should do your Google search, and hopefully it'll show up. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about NetHope's mission and their members and sort of what it's all about.
Sure, thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to be here. It's great to have partners like NetSuite in the work that we do. So NetHope is a consortium of 56 of the world's largest international nonprofits in the tech sector. For about 20 years, we've been working collaboratively to solve the hardest problems that we face in this world, trying to figure out how we use technology most effectively to solve problems of disaster response and economic opportunity and hunger and poverty and refugees. All of those issues are ones that our members deal with, and we think technology can help us accelerate the impact we have.
Fantastic. And you've worked with 56 international NGOs. What have been some of the challenges there?
Our member organizations are ones that everyone knows. Mercy Corps, Save the Children, Red Cross, Doctors Without Borders. All of these organizations are very different in the work that they do, but they all face a couple of challenges, both internally and externally. Like any global enterprise, they have the difficulty and the complexity of managing a workforce and finances and revenues and expenditures and all of those types of things. But they also have the external challenges of working in often very difficult environments that are very resource poor, sometimes in crisis, and sometimes in the middle of a conflict. And in addition, the nonprofit sector, because of the work that we do, rightly, is very heavily regulated. And so we have to be very careful around the work that we do with compliance.
Right. Okay, great. And you mentioned some of those organizations are actually have worked with NetSuite also, so that's great. And so, in the big picture, how do you see sort of technology influencing social change?
Well, we see it in a couple of different ways. I mean, certainly anytime that you can make an organization more efficient and more effective, that frees up dollars for us to use to do real good. But more importantly, we really think about how do we use data. Data, both in terms of the work that organizations do and in terms of the efficacy of an organization, that really helps us understand what's working, what's not working, where are we having impact, what needs more attention, and where can we replicate the goodness that's happening around the world. So having access to data, especially these days, is really a high priority for the sector as a whole.
Great. And so maybe that's some of the things that you think about working with the Center for Digital Nonprofit. Can you talk a little bit, we're a founding member, talk a little bit about that?
You are a founding member, and we appreciate that.
Pleasure.
We formed the Center for the Digital Nonprofit a couple of years ago, recognizing that the same challenges that the private sector faces with digital transformation are happening in the nonprofit sector. All of our organizations want to understand how to use technology to reimagine how we deliver aid, to reimagine how we do good in this world. But that's not something that organizations like ours are particularly good at. And so the Center for the Digital Nonprofits gives us a focal point to be able to learn from the private sector and to take what works in digital transformation and port it to the nonprofit sector, recognizing that we have some unique challenges and some unique outcomes, but working collaboratively, we can really focus on the promise of digital transformation to reimagine the way that we have impact in the world.
Yeah, and it's great to work with other technology companies. You know, normally you're competing with them, but in this case, you know, we're all trying to do the same thing. And so
absolutely.
The fact that you bring all these organizations together that have a very similar idea. I mean, a lot of what you echo is what we think about with Oracle NetSuite Social Impact is fantastic. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
That's great what Lauren and her organization are doing. We're so proud of the partners we have that are giving back, and we're grateful to NetHope. It's really a platform for nonprofits to make the world a better place. We always talk about doing good better, and NetHope and the Center for Digital Nonprofit are really critical in making that happen. So, we focus actually on a lot of different industries. One of them is nonprofit. And you can see on the screen some of the great names we have, just a little sample across a bunch of different industries. We really have 18,000 examples of fast-growing companies that have dealt with the challenges of growth. We've really had a ringside seat for these. And we've been talking to customers over 20 years. We're really trying to leverage that understanding to deliver a better service. And when we talk to customers, they talk about 3 key needs that they have to be able to level up, to reach their North Star. or at least get closer. That's the thing about the North Star. You think you're getting closer and you really aren't, but that's a great vision, is you never quite achieve it. But getting there involves really 3 key needs: visibility, control, and agility. And all of these needs are fundamental but not easy to achieve. So we're going to talk about each of these. We're going to talk a little bit about how NetSuite helps. So the first of these is visibility, and visibility into your past, your present, and your future. How you've performed historically, how you're operating now, and how to spot trends and opportunities that will help you grow in the future. And there's a lot of things that you might track sort of by default, okay? Most businesses track the final outcome of revenue, profit, margin, asset balance on the top line, or on the bottom line, expenses, liabilities, cash flow. But there really is more to it. There's other metrics that lurk behind these outcomes that can really represent blind spots. And visibility is about sort of unearthing some of these blind spots. When your revenue mix is flawed, when you are seeing inefficient business processes, creeping costs, or creeping employee attrition. These are the trends that can hamper growth. But it's not all bad news. Visibility can unearth guideposts on your journey, better ways to achieve growth, shortcuts, your highest margin projects, your top sales reps, your best performing regions. Drill down on these. What's working there that we can bring to other parts of the organization? Strong employee retention. What are they doing right in that location? Why do we have high customer satisfaction among this group? So those are the guideposts that really can help you achieve the growth that you deserve. And since visibility is critical to grow, I wanted to bring out a company and a leader who took a side business to an enterprise, 100 locations, and needed more visibility to make this happen. And so I'd like to introduce, from Drybar, Alli Webb. Fantastic. Oh. Thanks. Hi, Alli.
Hi.
So, well, maybe you could talk a little bit about Drybar, how it started, what it is. I'm not a customer.
You're not?
I'm going to do like several ball jokes during this, so just be prepared.
You just can't wait.
Every time I do a ball joke, you can drink. So can you talk a little bit about a blow dry bar versus a hair salon and how you got into this whole thing?
Well, it all started with my naturally curly hair. I grew up in South Florida, which if you've ever spent any time in Florida, you know it's super humid and it doesn't do good things for curly hair. These are all things you don't know.
I hear about it.
So that's where I grew up.
My wife's hair is totally naturally straight all the time.
Yeah,
but,
I don't like her. I really didn't like the girls in high school whose hair grew out of their head straight, which there's a scientific reason and I understand it now, but I won't bore you guys with that. But anyways, I have naturally curly hair and just was always hated it and was always trying to figure out how to get it straight, like your wife. And it just kind of...
What, you saw through my joke? Oh.
And it really planted a seed all those years ago. And, fast forward to figuring out what I was going to do with my life. I just always really loved hair. And I ended up going to beauty school in my early 20s against my parents' better judgment, and really fell in love with it and finally learned how to blow out my own hair. And, I loved the industry so much. And when I got married and I moved, I was living in New York City, I moved back to LA. I started a mobile blow dry business. It was called Straight at Home. And I was running around town blow drying all my mommy friends. And it was really just a way to get out of the house and get away from my children for a couple of hours.
That's a good vision.
That's how it really all started. Although my kids are 12 and 14 now, and I always make that joke, and I'm gonna have to stop because it's gonna start messing with them. Oh, anyways, so I started this mobile business. It was called Straight at Home, and I very quickly realized that, and I was only charging $40 to go into people's homes to do their hair, and
that's not much?
That's not much.
Well, actually, I do know that from direct experience.
Yeah, it's historically, to go to someone's home, in LA, or it's like, it can cost upwards of like $200 or $300. So I didn't really care so much about the money. I just cared about doing, getting out of the house, doing something for myself. So I started this mobile business, and it really took off. And I got so busy so fast, and I only had a limited amount of hours in the day. I had to pick up those kids from preschool, and so I realized during that time that there was this massive hole in the market, and there was no place for women to go for a great blowout in a beautiful space at an affordable price. It just simply didn't exist. And when you think back to like our grandmothers and our grandmothers' generation, and how they'd go to the beauty parlor once a week and have their hair coiffed, and that was like a thing, and it was a social gathering and all of that, that just went away. And so I felt like kind of bringing that behavior back, and we opened our first store in 2010 in Brentwood, and it was also in the middle of a recession, and people weren't spending a lot of money, especially on beauty products, and they were cutting back on cut and color. But I just felt like there would be enough women, at least in LA, that would like this service. And there were women like me who were figuring it out where to go, and they were historically going to a regular hair salon where they were charging them upwards of $80 for a blowout. And I was like, at $35, which is what we were when we started 10 years ago, I think women will come in and do this a lot. And my brother, Michael Landau, who's my business partner, and also bald, and has no business being in the hair industry, although he knows way more about
those
blowouts
that can't
than any.
teach.
Yeah, he knows way more about blowouts than any straight guy should know at this point. But anyways, I got him involved, and really wanted to open a brick and mortar to, basically grow my little business. And I thought it was going to be one little shop in Brentwood, and that would be my livelihood. I'd pick up my kids from school, and that would be that. And we so severely underestimated the demand and the response that this business would have, and how much it resonated with women. And now we have 130 locations and
Wow.
4,000 employees, and this massive product business. It's just like truly mind-blowing.
It's great. And my daughter's 18, and she says it's the only bar she can go to. So that's cool.
We like starting them young.
So as part of this growth journey, you got investment capital. What was that like, raising money for this, and what were the challenges of convincing people that this was going to be as big as it's turned out to be?
Well, and it's interesting because it was a lot of convincing like men in suits who don't have hair, and we're like, what the hell is a blowout?
And went and asked their daughters and wives?
Yeah, they're like, I think my
I'll get back
daughter's
to you.
in it. Yeah. Well, we did a lot of angel investments in the beginning. It was pretty humbling. We had clients and friends kind of coming out of the woodwork, like wanting to invest. And I'd say the first like $1 million we raised that way. And then we were like, we really have lightning in a bottle here. We have to move faster. And we knew we couldn't organically grow. So we started talking to investment bankers and then getting in front of private equity groups, which was really daunting. And, all joking aside, I would sit in those meetings with these men in suits who I felt like were a lot like smarter than me, and they knew a lot more. And I was this like kind of crazy hairstylist. And I remember saying to my brother, like, should I wear a suit to these meetings? And he was like, no, you should be yourself. Right. And, and it was like talking to people who, it was so foreign, and they didn't really understand the concept. And we were very new at that point. I think we had maybe 8 stores. So the concept was very small still. And, truly trying to explain what a blowout was to these guys. And then they look at it like, oh, it's a hair salon and you can sell them all this other stuff. And I was like, no, it's just blowouts. We do one thing and we're the best at it. So it was definitely like, right. It's a marriage when you take that much money from somebody. Sure. So we wanted it to be right, and we didn't want someone to just write a check. We wanted a partner. And that's really what we ended up getting. We went with Castanea. They're based out of Boston. At the time they owned like Urban Decay, and Janet Gerwich, who was the founder of Laura Mercier Cosmetics, was also part of Castanea. So it was a really long, process, and the term deal fatigue is a real thing, and it was a lot, but they ended up being great partners and have ultimately brought so much value to the company. And
then you eventually got to sort of flip the narrative, and you were on Shark Tank, and you got to evaluate as a guest investor, and you got to evaluate. What was that experience like, and how did you approach it from the other side?
Well, we're 10 years in now, and I've I've invested in a lot of companies in the last couple of years, and I really enjoy kind of getting behind the scenes and investing. I invest in a lot of female-founded companies that I feel really passionately about. And when Shark Tank approached me about coming on the show, I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. And you do have to personally invest. You know, a lot of people ask that, like, do they give you money to invest? Like, no. Which I also got my brother to go in on it with me blindly. I was like, whatever I invest in, you're going to take half, okay? And he did. But it was a really great experience, and you know, the other sharks are really fun. And I did invest into businesses. One was in the pet space, and it's so great to be able to be on the other side now and to have, you know, I've learned so much about growing, scaling a business, raising capital, and all of those things that, you know, for not having a college degree, you know, I've really kind of taught myself. It's been on the job training for the last 10 years. So, yeah, that was a really fun experience.
So we were talking about visibility. Can you think of times in growing the business there were kind of points where you felt like you couldn't see everything that was going on, and what were some of those things that you needed to see better, and did maybe NetSuite helped?
Yeah, I mean, I think
throwing that in there.
Yeah, I mean, we just couldn't do any of it without NetSuite.
Exactly. Done. Check the box.
I'm gonna go now. No, I actually was talking to our CIO the other day about it, and he was like, I mean, I was like, damn, NetSuite does do a lot for us. I mean, from inventory and IT, but in terms of visibility, I think it was the growth and how quickly we were growing and needed to grow because there's so much demand, you know, I mean, and there still is. I mean, we're opening probably 20 to 30 stores this year alone.
Wow,
you know,
fantastic.
I mean, where there's women with hair, there needs to be Drybar. So it's, you know, it's like we're constantly
that's
trying.
Half the world.
It's half the world.
That's a big market.
So it's like everywhere. I mean, that's kind of like, you know, affectionately became our tagline. And we're not just selling blowouts, we're selling happiness and confidence. And we want to give that to women everywhere, you know. And I would say it was probably like in year 4 or 5, after we had raised a good amount of capital. We've raised over $75 million, and we brought in a professional CEO, and that was a year that we slowed down because we were moving so fast and we were opening so many stores, and we didn't have a lot of systems in place, speaking of NetSuite, you know, and there just wasn't, it was like, you know, the analogy we always make is like we were like 5-year-olds playing soccer. Everybody was kicking the ball, you know, and it was just this, you know, it was kind of madness and exciting, but we were like, okay, we got to pull back. We got to like set things up so it's not just this like all hands on deck all the time, because it got so overwhelming, and there's so many employees and there's so many stores, and so it was, you know, and also then putting, you know, the right systems in place to make sure, you know, the stores that have opened are operating the way they should be, and customer service is there, and the training for the stylists is there, and you know, which is truly ongoing. And and as the bigger you get, the harder it is to see. And it's probably what keeps me up at night. You know, when I go into the stores, unfortunately, I see everything that's wrong and that we're not doing and need to be fixing instead of, and, you know, because people always ask me like, do you get blowouts all the time? And it's like there's a lot of anxiety for me, unlike everybody else who goes in Drybar and just sees how great it is for me. But I think that's, you know, part of being a founder and making sure that everything stays up to par.
Absolutely. And so you've expanded now out of just a service company into products. Can you talk about kind of what the process and thinking was there and what some of the challenges have been in doing that?
Yeah, I always wanted to have our own product line from the very beginning, but had no idea how to do it. And even though I've been a hairstylist for 20 years now and knew what I liked, and you know, we were using a mishmash of products in our shops, and I didn't love the assortment. I didn't love the way they worked together. So I really wanted to develop a product line, but just didn't know how to do it. And it really wasn't until Castanea came along, and Janet, who I mentioned, who, you know, Laura Mercier is one of the biggest makeup brands, and you know, at the time we were being kind of courted by L'Oreal and Living Proof and other brands who wanted to do a co-branded line, which that was pretty intoxicating. And we were like, let's do that. And Janet was like, don't do that. Do your own. It'll be much more profitable and much better. And so we took that advice. And Janet introduced me to some of the best labs in the country, and we started, I started developing a product line, which I didn't know how to do, but I would pull in my stylist, I'd ask everybody for their opinion. It's developing the fragrance was really challenging because it's as good as a product is, if it doesn't smell good, you don't want to use it. So, it was like another business within the business that I was like, oh shit, if this doesn't work, like I'm in trouble, and I was really scared. I mean, I remember like when we launched with Sephora initially, and we had a lot of meetings with them and, in the kitchen as they call it, and they gave us all their feedback of what they thought was good and what didn't and what didn't work. And they really helped us get out there, and now we're in Sephora, Ulta, Nordstrom, we're international, and the product it has taken off, and it's a huge part of our business. And NetSuite does help us quite a bit with the product.
No, that's great.
That's what he was really getting at.
I mean, but it really is true that we do see a lot of customers. This is a trend to services company becoming product companies wanting to offer service. So that's something we've been working on. So that's great. And so what's next for Drybar?
Well, our product is now, it's international, which is interesting because it's kind of a flip, because in the States we started with the shops and then added product. And then internationally we've done product and now are talking, international expansion.
Where are you going first?
I'm not 100% sure, but we are looking in London, and I had my druthers. We will open in Paris, and I will move there for that store. It's my favorite city. But there's just so much opportunity there, So that's kind of a big thing, and the product continues to be, a big driver for us. And there's, it's a lot of the same, but keeping it going and going into smaller, more suburban markets and testing that stuff. So. It's
no rest for the weary.
No rest. And we're doing a lot of like really cool things with marketing and, being able to track people and talk, so yeah, it's always growing and evolving.
Fantastic. And we have Drybar on the expo floor, so you can learn it. I'm going to go there right after this. I'll be first in line. I got my next ball joke.
Just can't resist.
Got to get it in there under the wire. Well, thanks so much, Alli, for coming in, chatting with us. Congratulations on all your success. Good luck in the future. So this is, this is great stuff, learning about how customers have grown, again, filling an untapped need, fantastic story. And again, NetSuite wants to be there to help and give better visibility. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the capabilities in 19.2 that really help you achieve better visibility into your business or organization. The first of these, is a great new addition that came last version after years and years of work, which is Suite Analytics. So total reconceiving of how you get data out of NetSuite, because that's what people use these systems for. They don't just put all the data in for their health. And it's all about really being able to analyze what's going on. So Suite Analytics in 19.2 has a bunch of great new features. It has pivoting navigation options. So when you're looking at your pivot, you can navigate by top 10 or bottom 10. So you got to identify best sellers and top performers easily, or find items with low profitability. You can sort by the measure fields now, so you can find assemblies that have, for example, the highest production cost per quarter. So great generic capabilities in Suite Analytics. Pivots and charts in workbooks, so that you can put them straight on dashboards. You can drill down to the workbook from the dashboard. They're interactive on the dashboard. You can change the chart type. In addition, in a bunch of areas, we've added new Suite Analytic workbooks, out-of-the-box workbooks. In Suite People, for example, we have time off analysis. That shows you the leave balances by employee, and also a payroll report for overall time off liability. It can show you the unused time. It can slice and dice. You can slice it by location and figure out which locations are working the hardest. That's always fun. And so great stuff for Suite People. Suite Commerce also added new analytics workbooks specifically about search. So you can get insight into the searches that people are doing on your site. Obviously, kind of the most important way that people are finding things in a lot of cases. You can understand what products are popular. You can then optimize your search and optimize what products you offer. So one of those is the top searches query, what searches customers are doing most. But then another really important one is top searches with no results. So these are products that shoppers want, but can't find. And that could mean that you need to adjust your search and add synonyms to help them find them more easily, or it might actually give you insight into what kind of products you might be able to add into your product line. Another really great visibility feature that we've added in the past couple of versions is the merchandise hierarchy, specifically targeted at product companies and especially apparel companies. So they want to always view by a hierarchy of levels of merchandise in the store and men and women and do the analysis at any different level. So another thing they want to do is have these attributes that they can look at across their entire product line, something like fabric. And now you can set those attributes from the hierarchy manager to save time. And then, of course, what you really want to do is analyze. So now all the standard workbooks support the merchandise hierarchy. So you can gain insights by looking at it at any level, evaluate performance, drill down to see what's behind the numbers. So visibility is great. It gives you those guideposts. It helps you avoid blind spots. It helps you go along at a high speed. But the issue with going along at a high speed is that you might veer off course. And so that brings us to the second key to growth, which is control. And every entrepreneur knows about loss of control. And getting a handle on the changes that are happening to your company in real time, steering back towards your true north, allows you to grow the right way. I mean, as you grow, as an entrepreneur, you have less direct involvement. You can't check in on every sales rep. You can't visit every warehouse. You can't talk to every project manager. Things start to drop, and you start to have multiple systems, which leads to chaos. And this lack of control can lead to destabilizers and distractions. And you might have localization gaps or global adoption challenges as you grow internationally. Without control, you can have fraud, theft, human error. Control is all about bringing order to this chaos. And we want to talk next to a couple people, a company that's really lived this, and Precision Medical has several layers of automation that have allowed them to achieve amazing 70% growth year on year since 2017. And also our diamond partner, Dell Boomi, who's helped them on this journey. So please let me introduce from the COO and CFO of Precision Medical, Bruce Capagli, and the VP of North American Sales for Dell Boomi, Rob Evans.
Good to see you.
Hi, Bruce, thanks again. It's nice to see you again. Bruce actually came and talked to our organization, the employees of NetSuite, so they can learn a little more about how Precision Medical has used NetSuite. And we're going to learn a little bit more today. So why don't you just talk a little bit about what Precision Medical does, your role, how you got there,
Perfect.
all that good stuff.
Yeah, Precision Medical Products is the category king in the prevention of deep vein thrombosis, more commonly referred to as DVT and more commonly known as a blood clot. It's a silent killer, affects over 1 million Americans per year, occurring 100 deaths per year, and the first sign for 1 in 4 of a DVT is sudden death. So our mission is to prevent and save lives through the devices that we manufacture for deep vein thrombosis and recovery rehabilitation of medical surgeries post-surgery.
Yeah, and how did you get there, and what's your role now?
I actually joined in 2016 as a consultant for one of the sister companies, and in 2017 joined full-time as the Chief Operating Officer. Then that's expanded now to Chief Financial Operating Officer of all 5 of our entities.
Fantastic. And you've adopted NetSuite. Sort of, how did that come about, and how did you end up choosing NetSuite?
So when I walked into the business, we had a glaring gap with business systems and processes and technology solutions. So once I understood our growth roadmap and trajectory and vision and values, quickly went to RFP to find a solution that would fit not only our current needs, but long term. So we did a quick RFP. NetSuite just completely outclassed the competition, and we've been a partner ever since.
Oh, fantastic. And so as the business has expanded, undoubtedly you've had to maintain control over operations. And how have you done that, and how has NetSuite sort of helped in that?
Yeah,
challenge?
really, it's having all our core processes for all companies in one system in one place has been amazing. It's really scalability has been huge, but from a control standpoint, just having all of that information in one place so that we can create true business intelligence.
Great. Well, that you hit on our true north right there. Fantastic. And so, Rob, maybe you could talk a little bit about how Dell Boomi has helped in this growth journey for Precision Medical.
Yeah, sure, Evan. One of the things that Precision Medical really had was just the speed. And one of the things that we like to say at Boomi is that we unlock the data. So when you talk about unlocking growth, the thing to think about Boomi is unlocking that data and being able to do so in a really fast way. So we were able, working with Bruce and team under 2 weeks to provide our NetSuite connector to Azure to really provide a real-time data warehouse to give them the valuable insights that they need in a really timely manner.
Fantastic. And how's been working with Dell Boomi on this integration? Talk a little bit about that.
It's been amazing. It's taken us to the next level. My vision was always to have a mobile-first enterprise, meaning I can do 90% of my job from my phone wherever I'm at any time. And the partnership between Dell Boomi and NetSuite have really created that for us. It's been amazing. I can do everything I need to do on the fly, real time.
Fantastic. And so what's next for Precision Medical?
Continued growth, scalability, optimization, and virtualization. We're really focusing on our data, how we use that to better drive our business, make decisions, and how we provide better data to our customers, our patients, and the healthcare providers to help to continue to save lives.
Yeah, and it's great what you're doing. I mean, that must inspire everybody every single day, saving lives. That's fantastic.
It absolutely does.
And what's next for Dell Boomi?
Well, I would say what's next for Boomi is the same that's what's next for Bruce and Precision Medical, which is expanding the use of the platform. Right now, we did kind of the easy stuff, as it were, in connecting the systems. But the Boomi platform consists of not only our EDI management, but a master data hub and an API management. So we're talking to them now about really exposing through their APIs the employee health records so that we can eliminate some of the manual data and increase data accuracy.
Good, that's good stuff. Well, thanks so much, Bruce and Rob. I really appreciate you coming today.
Thank you.
Good luck in the future.
Appreciate it.
See you soon.
Thank you.
So control is really fundamental to why customers choose NetSuite, and we're always looking at talking to CFOs and COOs like Bruce about how we can do that better. So I'm going to show you a few features in 19.2 that are all about control. So in fact, the first one has control in the name. It's the Supply Chain Control Tower. This is for product companies. It's an all-new dashboard. It has targeted alerts, pre-configured KPIs to really get a handle on everything going on in your supply chain. One of the most impressive features, I think, is our supply chain predicted risks. These are intelligent predicted risks that identify potential outages. And looking at historical information about providers and how well they've done, and it gives you a supply chain snapshot that really is a simulation of what might happen. You can create what-if scenarios, and a scheduler will sort of do automated analysis of the future status based on these what-if scenarios. So this is really just a great example of an intelligent feature that we're adding into NetSuite that help you maintain control of your supply chain. Flipping over to service companies, they require for control, really great budget accuracy, project budget accuracy, and advanced project budgets is all about that. So it adds a new work breakdown structure hierarchy, and you can distribute your budget by project timeline or with a monthly definition. It also has multiple what-if scenarios, and we've added a notion of activity codes. This is sort of a system-wide reporting hierarchy, sort of like the merchandise hierarchy for apparel and product businesses, to allow you to do really effective cost and revenue analysis. And you can learn a lot more about these features. There's a supply chain session, there's a suite analytics session, there's a suite people session, so I encourage you to check it out and learn about some of these great things we have in 19.2. So we've shown you some examples of capabilities and talked to some people about imposing order on the chaos. And visibility and control, that's great, but it's not enough when these big opportunities show up, these sort of tectonic shifts, these inflection points that are more than just tactical. And these represent often great opportunities, but to take advantage of those opportunities, you need agility, the third key need for growth. So you want to capitalize on opportunities. Here's some examples of inflection points. Business model has evolved greatly since you started the company. You've identified some great new sales channels. There are new customer segments coming in. Your workforce is becoming more virtualized. You want to see how you can take advantage of AI. And done right, these inflection points can represent force multipliers that can deliver hypergrowth to your company. But the agility to take advantage of them requires also system agility. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some additional features in 19.2 that are all about agility. And this is the part where I get to talk about code, so it's my favorite part of the presentation. On the left, you'll see a lot of code. On the right, you'll see very little code. And that's really what SuiteScript 2.1 is all about. It's in beta. It uses Oracle's Growl technology to deliver a more modern version of JavaScript called es.next. And this more modern version of JavaScript has much more object orientation. It has collections. It has async proxies, classes, which you'd think would have been there all along. But all of this really is going to make extending NetSuite with the Suite Cloud platform way more productive. And so again, being agile is about utilizing the flexibility of NetSuite, and this is going to greatly help. Switching gears a little bit, here's a type of inflection point that you might see as a manufacturer. You have a new customer segment. You've decided to sell direct to consumers. And how consumers are going to interact with your company is really different. And so that's what personalized catalog views are all about. Make the web store adapt automatically to this new category. You can define new customer segments, new item segments, and this is all automatically visible in Suite Commerce. You get a personalized catalog per segment, and you can even preview that personalized catalog in site management tools. Behind the scenes, in your supply chain, we're making that more agile. So again, you have this new customer segment. You want to pivot your supply chain to this new segment. So maybe you want to have a different fulfillment strategy for customers, for consumers, as you do for your wholesale customers or across different sales channels. And supply allocation is all about delivering these tailored fulfillment strategies and giving you complete visibility into what's going on behind the scenes. Sort of automated agility for your supply chain, optimizing fulfillment in real time, dealing with new orders, supply chain disruptions, and always giving you visibility into what's going on. So visibility plus control plus agility, it's great inside your company. Awesome to have visibility of what's going on, but that's not all you need. You want visibility outside your company. You want visibility into your industry. You want to recognize where you're maybe falling behind, or where there may be an opportunity arising. And for that, we've introduced a new site in April called Brainyard. And Brainyard is really all about delivering this intelligence outside of your company, what's happening in your industry. Imagine if you had 20 years of a front row seat for 18,000 businesses in dozens of industries, the smallest company to enterprises, and you've been able to watch someone spin an idea about blow drying into what's becoming a household name. You've seen every stumble and every triumph. You've seen companies become game changers in their market. You have a treasure trove of data and insights. Well, that's what we have at NetSuite, and Brainyard is about delivering that to you, tailored to specific industries, utilizing our internal experts and industry principles. And some of that information is coming in video form, and I want to show a video from Social Impact Industry Principal Cheryl Gibson, an example of something on Brainyard. Please roll the video.
So let's talk about dollars to outcomes, or dollars to mission. It sounds simple, but there are a number of steps to draw the connection. For example, a food bank funds a breakfast program for hungry kids in local schools. First, how sustainable is the program? How much money have we raised for the program versus the cost to run the program? Next, what are the immediate results of this program? How many kids got breakfast this week? And last, what are the trending results of this program over the course of several years? When we tie sustainability to long-term results, we know exactly how much it costs to run a program successfully. We can ask for support based on real numbers, and we can think big. what could our program do if it were fully funded? That's why connecting dollars to outcomes is so important. It brings the focus to real impact built on real numbers.
Fantastic. So this is just an example of sort of some of the high-level information you can get by industry. That's for nonprofit industry, but we have it across, as I said, 12 different industries. Then there's a ton of quantitative information, and really the heart of Brainyard is benchmarking, insights from 18,000 companies, performance data from Finlistics. There's a KPI resource page for each of these 12 industries, and these are the critical KPIs, the key measurements that you want to be looking at as you figure out, how am I doing relative to my peers, how can I do better? This was really the impetus behind Brainyard. Private equity firms came to us and said, we run our portfolio companies by the numbers. I mean, we're all about figuring out how they can do better on critical metrics. So can we see some of the information you have about how these companies are doing relative to the industry? And what we did is basically codify what the KPIs that we have inside the company across the industry. And benchmarking performance, understanding data, these are table stakes. And we're bringing this to life with Brainyard, and there's a lot more to come. So sports fans know all about data. It's everywhere now. Obviously there's sabermetrics in baseball, and in football they now have RFID chips and shoulder pads, so you can track outcomes. So this is a great segue to our final guest. I'm really excited to bring to the stage the Pro Football Hall of Fame quarterback. You love him, you know him here in the Bay Area and all over the world. He's a business leader and a philanthropist. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Young. Thanks a lot. Have a seat.
It's like
yep.
Jimmy Kimmel.
Okay, go ahead.
No.
Shall we dance? Okay, so
How are you?
I'm great. I came out to the Bay Area in 1987. Probably kind of a big year for you in the Bay Area.
Same.
Exactly. And
yeah.
so I immediately became a Steve Young fan. So excited to see you. I was
Not
waiting
immediately,
and waiting
let's
and
be
waiting.
honest.
Exactly.
No one was immediately a fan of mine.
I was waiting and waiting. No, I was, because I was new to the Bay Area. So
we were like, oh, I see what you're
simpatico.
saying, like this poor guy, and he has no friends. I'll back him.
Exactly.
You're one of those
exactly.
rare few that every once in a while I'll meet someone like, I loved you from the beginning. You're the one that I really, no, it's okay.
No, it's great. So you got to live the championship culture, first, from behind the scenes, and then,
right.
Becoming the leader there. So what was that transition like? I mean, the organization obviously had to make a big transition from a different style from Joe Montana to you.
Oh my gosh.
How did that
Yeah,
happen?
that's a long story. I'll try to boil it down.
We got the rest of the day.
You're going to need it for this one. But I think more than anything, for me personally, it was a journey of trying to figure out how I wanted to attack the problem. The problem was Joe Montana, and he is the king and the greatest ever played, and I'm next. And in that transition, how do you define yourself? How do you look at success? How do you, do you say, oh, I'll never do that, so I don't have to worry about it? Well, no, I kind of want to do that. And then I say, well, I want to, but then, every time I make a step, everyone, I'm in the grocery store and you overhear someone in the line about Steve Young, he's horrible, and, Joe never made a mistake, and they're like, oh, then the comparison mindset gets in your head, and you start thinking, well, I just run faster. I can do this, and if I just try harder, and I take all the blame, and just never give an inch, and all that kind of stuff, and it's just finally one day I broke in 1991 in the middle of the season. I couldn't do it anymore. I was done. And I didn't know, I look back and I can say that. In the middle of it, I just was depressed. I was clinical, I guarantee it. I mean, if I look back on that, I was like, I couldn't get up in the morning. I didn't want to go to work. I, just was beside myself with this weight that I felt, this burden. And it couldn't get better. It just wouldn't get better. It was just like, my life is I'm not going to make it to Christmas. There's no way. And so you get that in your head, and it gets pretty tough. And just really quickly, I had an existential change. I don't know if that's the right word. Football players love to use big words and just see if they work. And
go with it.
It's 50-50, and when it does work, they're like, hey, wow, that was. kind of surprised by that. But so I sat down with Steve Covey, famous 7 Habits guy, on a plane, just random. Told him how awful this was and how difficult it was and how much I was burdened by it. And he said, Steve, let me ask you 3 quick questions. One, about Eddie DeBartolo, the owner. What kind of guy? Oh, he's the best. He's the one that's brought players and owners together. He's very much about a holistic approach to the team. You're part of the family. What about Bill Walsh? Oh, he's great. He's one of the all-time greatest. He's an innovator. He's the first Silicon Valley CEO. He worries about your whole life and whether your marriage is good or whether you're good at home and with your health, are you sleeping, all that kind of stuff. Football was archaic. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so great. I thought that. Steve Covey says, those are amazing guys. I'd literally love to meet them. And then Joe Montana, if you had a question, could you ask him as a mentor? I'm like, yeah, I could do that. He goes, Steve, I got to tell you, I travel the world looking for platforms, places where human beings can be given an opportunity to iterate to find out how good they are. And when I find them, I amplify them. That's my books. That's what I do. He says, I got to be honest, I travel the world, and I don't know that I've ever heard of a better platform for you to find out how good you are. I'm like, oh, crap, because I thought this sucked. And now he spun it on me, and he says, and then Yoda, like, if you knew him, he was bald and kind of looked like Yoda a little bit, and he was not like,
He's not comparing me to Yoda.
Wow. So much for that.
I like to think I'm more of a Harrison Ford type.
But it was older, and he had I agree, and he had the finger, and he goes, do you want to find out how good you are? Because not everybody does. I go, no, I really do. He says, well, then you got your plan. And it just changed my mindset. I'm sorry for the long answer on the short question, but in many ways, I realized that I was on a quest, a personal quest, not on a quest with the fans or their expectations or a quest to be somebody that wasn't me, and so I just fell into this space that maybe everyone else does naturally, where it's just, I remember we played the Cowboys in 1992, and they were the best other than us, and Troy Aikman was the quarterback, and we were warming up, and we warmed up the 50s going opposite ways, and I saw him, I'm, Troy, I'm on this quest to see how good I can get. I can't find out unless I play the best, and you guys are the best. I'm so excited you're here. This is great. I remember Troy looking at me like, you're weird. What is that? Yeah. But that's how kind of invested I was in this new process that freed me from the burden of trying to be something, that you can't.
Well,
anyway, I don't know if
that's great. The rest is history. I mean, you did have an unbelievable career. I mean, your stats are legendary. You won a Super Bowl. I mean, it's just just amazing. Career, and I was watching YouTube yesterday, and it's just great fun to watch. I mean, obviously the running, was a massive change from Joe Montana, and again, you talk about how great the organization was in that championship culture. Was that something that the organization had to adapt?
So I think there's a spirit of accountability, and what I say there is, from the owner to Bill used to talk about, like, at the end of a season, if we didn't go, he said, at the beginning of the season, he'd say, we're going to the Super Bowl. That's what we're doing. We're going to set up camp in the playoffs, and we're going to attack Everest, and we're going to go to the Super Bowl. And when the years when we didn't go, he would stand before the team and say, look, I am not a Super Bowl coach. I thought I was. I thought I was. And the things I look back on, I did not get it done. And what it did is it allowed for accountability everywhere. Right. If you want to be a man of mitigation or a woman of mitigation where you say, oh, I would have, but for many truths, they're actually facts, and save for these facts, we would be Super Bowl champions. Everyone else goes the same, then what it does, it feeds down, and everybody else mitigates, right? It's like, oh, well, I would have too, but, all the sun and the moon, the stars didn't align, right? And so for me, the 49ers are one of these rare organizations in the 80s and 90s that had an institutional accountability, so everybody, even the equipment man, felt like if I don't do my job, we'll lose. Yeah. And that's when you win, is when everybody feels that personal investment that if I don't do my job well, we're in trouble. And people go, wow, what play did you call? What defense did you run? What blitz did you? It doesn't matter. If you have every 50 guys that are individually accountable and under pressure and in adrenaline and all the things that are on the field, you're gonna win.
Right, well, so rolling forward, things are different now. It's sort of the player empowerment era. We see players, we had the high-profile one in the past couple weeks, just move from team to team. And is it possible to still preserve that culture in this environment?
Yes, and the Patriots have done it. And you watch it, and you go, what? They never lose. How's this possible? And they have institutionalized the intellectual rigor that is not, everyone else you say is moving around fast. They change teams so quickly. Free agency, they turn over 35, 40% of the roster every year. What can coaches do, right? What a coach, I get 35, 40% new players every year. How do I teach complex offense and defense? And the Patriots leaned into it 20 years ago and said, if you come here, you're going to memorize 50 things, not 10. And if you don't memorize 50, don't come to work.
Right.
Because most times, coaches capitulate all the time because they can't get the guys to do it. Well, they just made it part of their, and then Tom Brady enforced it. Randy Moss tells an interesting story when he joined the Patriots. He was already an all-pro, one of the great players of all time, joins the Patriots, and he goes out to practice. He runs a corner route, and he doesn't get the ball, and comes back, and Tom yells at him, Randy, you're supposed to break it at 12. You broke it at 15. And Randy, he tells a funny story. He's like, who cares? Like, I don't care. Like, whatever. And he goes, no, you go in and memorize all that stuff, and then come out when you've got it memorized. He's like, seriously? So they sent him in. So he goes into off the field, and he gets his playbook. He goes, so he leafs through it. He's like, all right, whatever. And he closes it up, and he goes back out. And then something else happens, and Bill Belichick stops practice, the whole thing, and says, Randy, I don't think you understand what happens here. If you don't know what you're doing, you have to leave. Not leave the field, leave the team. You have to go.
Okay.
So either go memorize it.
I'm going to do that too.
But
I'm going to tell some developer or engineer, you got to get off that keyboard.
But it's institutional. But when you set it up institutionally, then it's not just a one-off. It's just who we are. And what happens is, Randy then had to go in and actually, he told me, he's like, for the first time in my life, in my Hall of Fame career, I had to memorize everything. And when I did, that was the year they went 16-0, and you just threw 40 touchdowns to them. And so it's just like, why you asked me today in player empowerment is you still have to have fundamental accountability, and if you have an intellectual rigor, you're gonna beat everybody. And they can do it. People are like, who are these guys? They keep saying, like, the Patriots are like a bunch of people that you don't know. You know Tom, but you don't really know anybody else, do you? Through the years. It's
right.
Institutional.
Well, I'm sure a few people in this audience have a burning question. Do you think that the current 49ers are building that?
So that's come back.
And we're in the vault here, by the way.
No, it's all right. I'm on record because I was so frustrated for 10 years. But we have a history. And we were the leaders. Bill Walsh was the change maker. He was the one that changed football forever. He created all of this empowerment. He wanted it. He wanted player-coach empowerment. And now it's here. And that doesn't need it. But most people say, well, that's bad, because now you're going to have transition people. Players empowered are going to cause more grief. You want people kept. You want everybody like without power. And Bill realized that in 1980, that's stupid. And even today, you can see football trying to hold the players in control, because then they have control and then it's okay. And they don't realize that by making your partner with your players, which happened about 15 years ago in the CBA and the collective bargaining, why has football exploded? Because they have a partner now on the field. Why is it still a problem with referees? Because they're not a partner. They're still part-time employees. You got to make people partners. And Bill was the change agent back in 1980 that took 30 years to get throughout the NFL, but now I travel on Monday nights to see all the teams, and you can see Bill Walsh in every team. And it's an amazing thing.
That's great. And so you've made a transition personally into the business world and world of private equity. Are you able to take some of these lessons and apply them there?
Everything. Everything relates. The things that don't relate is there's a field, it's lined, there's a clock, there's 80,000 witnesses.
Right.
Like in business, there's no truth. The truth comes out really too late. And that's a problem. And so one of the things I try to do, I can't help all the MBAs, I got a law degree, but I didn't MBA, and so all the MBAs are like super, I'm elite, I know all these modeling, I know how to tell you, I know the truth. And the funny thing is that in business, it's hard to find, where in football, it was super easy to find. Everyone saw it. I mean, 80,000 people just said, you're not good, like, no, I really am. On Tuesday, I'm great, but today, yeah. And so that's super hard, but all the relative things about teamwork and about how you come together and who's responsible and how you develop accountability and stay away from mitigation, and those are all absolute truths in it's human behavior.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
And players are getting more involved in business earlier on. Do you think that is helping them see, what the organizations are trying to do?
Yeah,
or is it
I
just a
think over
distraction?
time, Andre Iguodala, guys over the Warriors are doing a great job of kind of doing what we did back in 1995 when we were all sitting there in Silicon Valley. We're in Santa Clara. We were the first ones there. They gave us the land because there was nothing in Santa Clara. And then 3 years later, you threw a bad pass, it hit John Chambers in the head. I mean, everybody was piled in. And we decided that we were going to invite all the venture capitalists from Sand Hill Road to come down and be in the locker room. Like, look, you bring your family, come to the locker room, and then for that trade, we want, $20,000, $30,000 of everything you do. And we just, took 5 or 10 of it, split it up, and we had 15, 20 investments, and that's what they're doing more substantially again now. Yeah. I think that's, getting involved and understanding business, because football players and athletes in general they feel like it's a black box, like it's a special place that I can't understand. And the truth is, you can. It's a little different. It's a different space, but once you get it, there's a lot of similarities.
So you think it's positive for the players to be doing
100%.
it earlier on? That's
great.
Yeah,
just I don't invest in the cat farm in Mexico.
Yeah.
Like there's really good things to do. And the thing about non-investors, think about taking $1 million and making 5. And that is not, to me, that's not investing. Taking $1 million to make, $100,000,
right.
or then. It's like, I think that's what happens, is they end up trying to make these big hits, and then they end up with nothing.
Right.
And they get in with the wrong people. They're selling these kinds of things, And they see it happen to owner entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley and software, and they think, that's going to happen. And that's one. Everyone knows that's one, not in a 1 in a million, but it's 1 in 1,000.
Right.
Right. It's not 1 in 5.
No. Yeah, and we've been talking today a lot about data, and I'm sure in the work you do in private equity, you see how much data companies. You talked about MBAs and all the data they look at. Well, that's been happening in sports, obviously. I mean, just so much data now. People are analyzing it. Do you think that if there had been this real focus on data and RFID chips and people's shoulders pads back in the day, how do you think that would have changed things, or do you think maybe...
A little bit. Football is unique, and that's why I think it's a great game, and if we can make it safer, then we can make it the greatest game ever, because it really does beat back data. It is just the human kind of, will that comes out. Baseball is so much more data-driven because it can be. Mm-hmm. There's important data in football, no question, but in the end, there's an X factor in football that you just can't quantify. But data's running the world. I mean, even in private equity, if you think about how we underwrite businesses and model, artificial intelligence soon. We had one of our big investors say he believes in 5 years, you won't need to underwrite. It'll be artificial. You just put the inputs in and you'll spit out the model. You won't even need the human factor. So it's going to disrupt. Data's disruption is just beginning, right? I mean, it's just I always think back on, who was it that said it's like data's, software's eating up the world, because in many ways, he said, I was at the beginning of Netscape, and I started it, and I saw all the cool stuff, and I thought I was in the middle of the greatest revolution in the history of man, and now I realize I'm going to die, and all the cool stuff's not yet here. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's the world's changing so fast. So you talked about safety, and you obviously part of your career was affected by concussions, and I think it's affecting football and how people view it.
For sure.
So do you think the NFL is, are they making good progress, or where do you think it sort of ends up?
There's certainly a lot more focus. I think when you have a concussion, part of it's medical science needs to help. The brain is a mystery still. getting smarter, but it's still tough to really know. It's you know when your knees hurt, you know when your shoulders hurt, and so some of it's hard. So I'm not going to blame the league because something's difficult. But I also believe that there are objective tests for what we'll call brain health that are out there that are not being used because objective tests scare the control factor. And so there are things, the league is trying, no question. They're trying to prevent litigation. Cynics would say it's just about trying to prevent litigation, but I think there's actually some people trying to figure out how to make it safer. It's changed the game for quarterbacks in a very positive way. It's awesome. Like if I could play today, that'd be super fun. Because you really can't be hit. You know?
That's a big advantage.
I used to get killed.
Yeah.
But so they're trying. But until they take some of these objective tests, so that you come off the field, and you go into the tent, and you can take an eye tracking test in 60 seconds, and you could know really an enormous amount of your brain health because the eyes are the window of the brain. Then you're either in or out. It's binary, and they don't want that. They kind of want you to be able to argue and complain and tell the neurologist that's on the field, screw you, I'm going back in the game. And the guy's like, okay, that people love that flexibility, and we're until we use the objective testing. Stanford has a great objective test called SyncThink, and that's in the Pac-12 and college is using it, but until the pros do it, no one's going to be super serious about it.
And that's something that I think probably a lot of fans aren't necessarily aware of. I mean, is there a role for fans in encouraging the NFL? I mean, I think fans truly do want their players to be healthy for their whole life.
Fans run the NFL, they just don't know it.
Right.
Right? When they had to dip in, for the first time in their history, had a dip in viewership 3 years ago, it's 3 or 4, something like that, there was panic in the streets of the NFL office. Like, we've never gone down. We're inelastic. We can do all kinds of dumb stuff, and it doesn't matter. We get bigger.
Right.
Right? We can just
must be nice.
It's an unbelievable business. And they've actually...
often called a monopoly. No.
Often called antitrust
I didn't say
legislation
that.
allows them to draft kids. You're hitting on a theme here. Trust me. But the league has that. And so, there was some panic because the fans kind of started to not watch. But now they're back. And so the hubris is back.
Right.
Like, look, yeah, we had a little dip, but now we're killing it again and nothing matters. And we can have, there's all kinds of issues that the league faces, but it's not existential. When it's existential, people tend to really change.
Right.
And I'd love to see some of the, they're on the edges, they're doing better, but there's some big things I'd like to see. There's some big things coming with what's happened with Antonio Brown, what's happening with a lot of the players. As we think about player empowerment, which I'm a big fan of, in the end, I'm not afraid of empowerment. I think empowerment, in the end, will make everything better. But how you do it, how you allow it. Right now, players are actually getting so bold that they're making they can dictate, I think I can dictate terms. No, it's never been thought of. The NBA that can happen, but not in the NFL. So the NFL is facing player, not revolt, but empowerment. How do we deal with that? And I said something on Monday night that people misconstrued as I'm supporting the league. I'm supporting player empowerment, but I'm warning, it's a word of caution for the league that if you don't figure out how to allow this empowerment in a more rationalized way, they'll explode on you. And players, I went on, my dad was a labor lawyer, and I went on strike in 1987 and held a picket sign in front of the 49er building, running around with Joe and Dwight and Ronnie and all of us, and my dad almost disowned me, because he's a management guy. And so I've been on this little bit of a fight for a long time with the NFL.
Yeah. All right, we're going to finish up with just a little history here, so I think people would love to hear what is your most iconic pass, or maybe one of them. You probably have
That's a hard one. I'm not the tallest guy in football. Now there's actually super short guys, like 5'8". Kyler Murray, the #1 draft choice for the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, you couldn't be 5'8".
Doug Flutie.
You could, but Doug never really got going because they just kept holding him back because you can't be. But I wrote on my football card 6'2", because that's what I thought I was. But I wasn't 6'2". I was 6 foot 3/4 inch. But I was probably the shortest player at that time playing quarterback. Now Drew Brees is shorter. There's a couple of guys that are really good. Russell Wilson's 5'10". But at that time, I guess my famous, in my mind, throws are throws where I decided when there were such big guys, and I had some visibility issues. 6'5" guys. I mean, Peyton Manning's 6'8" with a neck that's this long. I mean, he's got a periscope, you know. It's like totally unfair, and so there's a lot of times I had to decide, like, am I not going to throw it because I can't see him, or I kind of know where he is. I kind of just saw him. I kind of know where he's going, and just let it go. And so there's times when I threw the ball kind of on this faith, it's a good segue, but to about anything you want to talk about, because I had to kind of close my eyes and just go, yeah. And there's throws that won games that I did that on, where, you know, I remember in Atlanta, I went and I was like, Jerry Rice, right there, and we were down and we had to come back, and he caught it, and I got pounded on the bottom of a pile. And I don't know if you know much about defensive linemen, but they're the stupidest people alive.
I don't see any in the audience. I think we'd notice them.
Their face is
quite
jammed
large,
in the helmet,
but
and there's drool.
apologies.
That's a joke, kind of. I'm kidding. But anyway, I'm at the bottom of the pile, and the guy's like, "Your mother," blah. I'm like, "What? I don't understand what you're saying." You know. But all of a sudden, the crowd goes quiet because it's in Atlanta, and I realized that Jerry Rice caught that ball, and we just won the game. And I remember thinking at the bottom of the pile, "This is the greatest moment of my life." But if you think about great throws, that's the ones that remember. You know, there's no headline in the next day in the paper, "Steve Young throws blind." You know. But for me,
that was a little secret.
For me, that was super. I was like, wow, yeah, I pulled that off. That was cool.
And opponents. So is there kind of, you know, a rivalry that you think back on that really meant a lot to you that you grew from?
It was the Cowboys in 92. We got beat in the championship game for the Super Bowl. They went and won it. 93, we got beat in the championship game, and they went and won the Super Bowl. 94, we met in the championship game, and we won the Super Bowl. It was, you know, and honestly, you just like, if, you know, but for them, you know, I mean, like, you know, you just like your nemesis your whole life. You think about your mean girl in grade school, or, you know, or whatever. He's like, but for them, I would have, you know. And that was the way I feel about the Cowboys. It was like, oh. You know, if they could have just not been there, if they could have just taken a couple years off, boy, we could have really been something.
You know, the story ended well. You persevered, and amazing results. Congratulations.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Everything you've done.
You bet.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here.
Okay, thanks. Take care.
Take it easy.
It's great.
Great, you know, great stuff, and love to hear lessons from the sports world. They really can apply in business, and very, very thoughtful. It's fantastic. So I want to finish up with announcing Suite World. It's the 10th anniversary. I hope you all make it to Vegas, April 20th, 23rd, and you can go for free if you submit a session idea that we accept. I want to wish you a great rest of your day at SuiteConnect. Thank you so much. Enjoy everything we have here. Go on the expo floor if you're not bald. Get a blow dry, and we'll see you out there. Thanks a lot.